Straight all day.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is that America conspires to make you average, but I'm going to tell you how to fight against what they are trying to create in you. And yes, there is a reason why I'm saying America specifically, not the world, but America. And I'm going to get into exactly, of course, I will build my case and make my argument in this episode, as I always do. But before I do that, let me tell you, first of all, I have a daily motivation text I send out free of charge every morning on my text community. You want to get this message guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point, text me at my number, 305-384-6894. Every day when I send that message out, because you're in my text community, you'll be getting that message straight to your phone for free. Number two, my next live event, physical, in person, no live streaming. A bunch of people have been asking me, is it a live streaming? Listen, I'll tell you in a second. It's called Work on Your Game Live. It's happening February 3rd and 4th in Miami, Florida. We're gonna be covering mindset, strategy, systems, and execution. All right, with at least one of these you need. Many of you need 2 or 3 of them, and a bunch of you need all 4 of them. Come to this event. I'm going to be teaching it. If you can listen to this show every day, you can learn from me in person directly for 2 straight days, where I'm going to be going deep into these subjects, even deeper than I go in this show right here. Several people have asked me, is there a live streaming option? Listen, I mentioned this before a couple weeks back. Listen, you don't want to live stream conferences. You don't want to live stream a conference. It's a completely different experience being physically in the room. Now, I know after COVID and a bunch of people couldn't go to events, and then a lot of people started doing virtual events, and people were like, oh, well, we can do virtual events. We don't have to travel and go through the hassle and the pain of physical events anymore. And for those who are selling the event, like myself, the person who was putting on the event, is much easier and much more expedient for a person to put on an event, and even if the ticket price is a little bit lower, sell the virtual event than it is to sell the physical event. So I should be offering streaming for this event, right? Wrong. All right, here's why it's wrong. There's a whole different element to being in the room, folks. I personally don't like attending virtual events. And the reason why I don't like attending virtual events, because I'm not going to pay the same level of attention. I'm not going to retain the information the exact same way. And you can't meet anybody through damn Zoom if you have never met them in person. Now, I could talk to you on Zoom if I met you in person before, and I could talk to you on Zoom depending on what kind of business we're doing. But if I'm going to your event, I want to be in the room. I want to shake your hand. I want to feel your energy. I want to be in the room where there's a person to my left and a person to my right, not just me here on Zoom. Because if I'm here on Zoom, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, I'm eating food, I'm be doing other things, I'm be looking at my phone, I'll be going on websites while you're talking where it looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm really not. I'm looking at other things. I'm looking at my Gmail. I wouldn't do any of that when I'm actually in the room at a physical event. It's a completely different experience. If you've never been to a live event, if any of you have never attended a conference and you want to attend a conference, attending virtually is not the same. It almost doesn't even count. Now, it counts, but it doesn't. Go to workonyourgame.live, get your ticket to this event, and stop playing around with virtual events. All right, you can't Zoom your way to this. All right, this is something you need to physically be in a room for, and it's in goddamn Miami. All right, why would you want to virtually stream an event from fucking wherever you live when you could be in Miami in the middle of winter? All right, I'm just saying. All right, now let's move on to the third thing I got to tell you before we get into the topic. Is any of you who's interested in coaching with me, I have a coaching program. It is inside of my university. The only way to get into that program is you got to get on a call with me first. The way you do that is by going to workonyourgame.net/apply. Pick a time on the calendar, fill out the quick application so we know who you are, what you're about. We'll get on a call, figure out, first of all, find out your background, where you're at, where you want to go, what you think your challenges are. I'll tell you if I can help you and what it will look like. If I can't help you, I'll tell you that as well, and we'll go from there. That is all at workonyourgame.net/apply. All right, so now that we got all the housekeeping items out of the way, let's get into our topic, which is America conspires to make you average. And yes, there is a specific reason why I am isolating America on this topic, not just the world in general. And I'm gonna tell you how to fight it. I don't need to give too much background on this because all my background will be within the points that I'm gonna share. So let's get right to it. Point number 1. Topic again, America conspires to make you average, how to fight it. All right, everybody knows the app TikTok, right? Everybody heard of it? Some of you are users of it. I'm not really a user. Every now and then I take something that I posted on Instagram and I'll put it on TikTok just to see what happens. Just because TikTok has so many people, maybe I'll catch a straggler or two over there. But generally, I mean, to keep it real, my ideal clients, my ideal people that I serve are not TikTok users. They're not scrolling through TikTok, wasting time looking for something to distract them. But no knock on you if you happen to be a user. But anyway, here's the reason I'm bringing up TikTok. The Chinese version of TikTok, many of you don't know this, because TikTok's it's run by a Chinese company, right? The Chinese version of TikTok, meaning people in China using it, limits teenagers to 40 minutes per day on the app, and they ban teenagers from using the app from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. According to CNN Business, here's the quote. This is straight from CNN Business, reading the quote. In June, China revised its minor protection law, which requires internet service providers, which include social media apps, to, quote, set up corresponding functions such as time management, content restriction, and consumption limits for minors, close quote. Also, this is continuing from CNN Business, last month, the country barred online gamers under the age of 18 from playing on weekdays and limited their play to just 3 hours most weekends, close quote. That's the end of the quote from CNN Business. So in China, they have a law called the Minor Protection Law. First of all right, you see some of the things that some people who I consider crazy people, are trying to do to minors these days, or are trying to make it acceptable to do to minors these days, or trying to make it acceptable to influence minors to do, such as changing their genders, or we know the next step. And I'm not knocking anybody who's in the LGBT group, but the next step for the LGBT is adding that P. And you know what P stands for? Pedophilia. That's the next one that's coming. All right, and you can, if you think I'm wrong on that, hold me accountable for it in 5 years. All right, give it 5 years, it's coming. This is what they're doing in the United States. But in China, they have a law called the Minor Protection Law that applies to the whole country. And they told social media apps that they must set up functions for time management, content restriction, and consumption limits for kids. That's what they're doing in China. They are not allowing their kids to just use this stuff recklessly and randomly like we do here in the United States. And I got more to this point. We're still on the first point. And also, they told online gamers, people who play video games, if you're under the age of 18, you can't play on the weekdays, and you can only play for 3 hours on the weekends. Now, what does any of that have to do with you? What does that have to do with my bigger point of America is conspiring to make you average? Here's what it is. First of all, the American government has no such restrictions that China's government has, because here's the thing, America wants to control you with media. They want you consuming as much social media as possible. China has a law that limits how much social media you can consume, at least for kids. And they limit how much time you can spend playing video games for youth. They are limiting it because they understand that if you allow a kid to use that stuff all day, they will use it all day. Listen, I have a 3-month-old son. He cannot speak yet. And for the most part, I mean, he can understand language, but not really, right? But when I pull out my iPad on my phone, he stares at that screen, even though he doesn't know what's going on the screen. These screens, and well, first of all, the screen has moving objects on it, so it's more interesting than just an inanimate object like a toy. But at the same time, the people who create these things, they're engineers. These are very smart individuals. They know how to set these things up. These things are scientifically engineered to make you attached to them, to make you addicted to them. And China understands this the same way America's engineers understand it. The difference between China's engineers and America's engineers is that in China, the government says, you engineers are not going to get our kids addicted to screens. We're going to teach them other things. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. In the United States of America, they say, we know these screens can make you addicted. We want you addicted. Why? Because in America, they want to control you through the media. This is why you see, follow my logic here, this is why you see entertainers and athletes in the United States doing commercials for go vote, or doing commercials for go get the jab for this virus. Why? Because the entertainers and athletes in the United States have more influence over your kids than the parents and the teachers do. Some of you, as adults, were raised by media. You were raised by entertainers and athletes and the people on TV more than you were raised by your parents. Some of you who are parents, you understand exactly what I said here, and you are doing your best to make sure that the TV screens, and that when I say, let's just say the screens, phones, iPads, TVs, you're making sure that those screens aren't raising your kids and having more influence over your kids than you do. You and your other parent are having more influence over your kids than you have. In America, they want this. They want the screens to dominate so that once they have the kid hooked and listening to everything that comes through the screen, now anything that comes through that screen, they can get you to believe because you're dominated by the screen. But see, in China, they understand this, so they don't want you dominated by the screen, so that the biggest influence is what it's supposed to be, which is your parents, people at home. Two different worlds. And, oh, by the way, China and America are in a battle. Now, they work together in many ways. There's a battle between China and America, and it is right now getting towards the point, if things keep going as they're going, that China is going to be the biggest power in the world over the United States. The United States is still the biggest now, but that might not last forever. And many people seem to think it will last forever just because, but it won't, especially at the rate that we're going right now with things like this, because the kids, the reason I'm talking about the kids here is that they're the next generation, they're the next wave. So 30, 40, 50 years from now, many of us are going to be either old or out of here, and those kids are going to be the people in their prime. They're going to be the people running things. And if this is what they were raised on, how are they going to compete with these kids in China? And we're going to get to that. I'm not done. As I get through this whole episode, you'll understand why that matters. This is also why there's guys like Andrew Tate, who some of you may have heard of. He was the most viewed person, the most Googled person on the internet at one point in 2022, but he ended up getting banned off all the social media platforms, at least all the Silicon Valley social media platforms. So the YouTubes, the Instagrams, the Facebooks. He got banned off of all those platforms allegedly for misogyny, which is it was a bullshit pretext to ban him off these platforms. It wasn't even anything specific that he had said that they were banning him for. They just banned him because, and Andrew Tate said this himself, because I've seen him he's been interviewed several times since he got banned. So his profiles got banned, but it's not like he can't be interviewed by other people. So I've seen him interviewed I saw his interview with Patrick Bet-David. I saw his interview with Piers Morgan. I saw his interview with Zuby, a guy whose show I've been on myself. And one of the things Andrew Tate said was that one of the reasons that they banned me is because they realized that the things that I was talking about, which was basically personal development, that he was saying in a very strong way, granted, but it was nothing misogynistic about it, that he got banned because he had a little bit too much power because of the size of his audience. He had too much power, and his message was countering what the mainstream message that America is trying to give people. He was countering what Silicon Valley was saying. That's why they wanted to ban him. Not that if he had been saying the same thing that Silicon Valley wanted him to say, then he wouldn't have got banned. It was because he was saying something different than what they wanted him to say. And pay attention, folks. LGBTQ commercials from your favorite rappers and ball players, oh, that's next on the agenda. I already told you. And they're gonna add a P to that. LGBTQ, I think is IA. I don't even know what those letters stand for. Doesn't matter. Oh, the P is the most important letter that's coming next. That's when they're going to make it okay for someone over the age of 18, a consenting adult, i.e. a consenting adult, to have sexual relations with someone under the age of 18, i.e. a child. They are about to make that happen next. And I'm going to tell you why they're going to make this happen next. It's not just because there are crazy people out here. There have always been crazy people, but the crazy people have always been held at bay by the laws and the standards of our society. The difference is nowadays, a bunch of people who want to tear down those laws and standards of society are speaking up loudly, and the people who are sane and know that these laws and standards need to be upheld are being real quiet. Therefore, the crazy people's message is dominating because nobody's opposing it. And when somebody gets enough power and they're opposing it strongly enough, i.e. the Andrew Tates of the world, you see what happens to them. This is the next step, folks. Y'all better pay attention, especially those of you who have kids. And any of you who's in the dark right now, who is not quite connecting the dots of what I'm saying right here, oh, you're gonna see it soon. No, it ain't gonna be in the dark. It ain't gonna be in the dark for much longer. Moving on to point number 2. Just keep that one in mind over time. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is America conspires to make you average. I'm gonna tell you how to fight it. Number 2, schools, hospitals, jails, and courthouses. Schools, hospitals, jails, and courthouses. I want you to notice something. Most of you have been in at least 3 of those. Maybe you've never been inside a jail. If you haven't, keep it that way. I want you to notice that all four of these places are all designed the same way. A school, a hospital, a jail, and a courthouse. They're all designed the same way. Think about the last time you were in each one of these and tell me if I'm wrong. See, when you're in one of these places, here are the things that happen. People use their alleged authority, their quasi-authority that is granted to them because they have the job and they're at work at that moment. They use their authority to try to control and direct you. They do it in school through the teachers and whoever knows in the staff at school. Oh, they definitely do it in hospitals. And we all know over the last 3 years, a lot of people with some medical authority tried to, or successfully or tried to cajole you and shame you and basically scare you into doing something that you might not have wanted to do under threats of your health is going to be destroyed. Then you got in the jails, you have, I've never been a prison inmate, but in jail, you have the officers, the correctional officers there, and in the courthouses, you got the judges and the officers who are working in the court. They all use their authority to try to control and direct you to do what they want you to do. And when you don't comply, here's what happens. The jails and the courthouses threaten your freedom. The hospitals and the doctors threaten your health. The school and the teachers threaten your mind. Just notice that. This is in the American system. And see, most people, really smart individuals, often will find themselves complying with these people trying to control them. And then after they have complied, they will turn around and wag their finger at you if you choose not to comply. Oh, you didn't take that shot? Why did you not take the shot? You're gonna kill everybody. You don't care about other people's lives. All right, you won't put this thing and cover your face for the next 3 years because you don't care about spreading your germs and viruses to other people. They'll wag their finger at you for not doing the same thing that they did, for not complying like they did. And the thing is, the thing that makes it so compelling is that you get smart people who go and comply. It's not like they're picking the bums of society to comply. They get the smart people to comply and then try to use the smart people against you. So they get the successful people, the entertainers and the athletes, they get them to comply and then get them to get on TV, get on the screen and tell you and your kids that you're supposed to do the same thing. Look, this is a successful person. How do you not listen to them? Y'all understand the system? This is a system, folks. All right, when I talk about strategies and systems, this is not randomly happening, everybody. This is a system. They know exactly what they're doing, whoever they is. All right, they know what they're doing. It takes balls to go against the grain, and most people just don't have any. And this is why many people end up complying even against their will. They end up complying simply because they don't have the balls to not comply. I talked about getting balls in episode 1796, and I also talked about in episode 2256. Key asset, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to have some balls. You better have some balls, you're going to become an entrepreneur. And if you're just going to be a person, period, and you want to exercise your freedom that is granted to you by a higher being, your freedoms and your rights are granted to you by a higher being. They're not granted to you by any government, by the way, in case any of you didn't know. You got to have some balls to use them, because as you can see, there is a coordinated effort to take those freedoms and rights away from you to just get you to comply with whatever the system wants you to do. Listen to episode 1796 if you haven't already. I told you the story of when my son was born. If you haven't read I talked about this, and let me tell you the episode that was. That was episode number 2338, the trash that is the American medical system. So I'm already on the record trashing the American medical system. And that's not a knock on any of you who happens to work in the medical system. I understand a job is a job. We all got bills to pay and we all got to cash our checks. I'm not trashing individuals who work within a system that is trash. I believe the educational system is trash as well. I believe the court and legal system, many parts of it are trash as well. That does not mean I'm knocking cops and judges and lawyers. It also doesn't mean I'm knocking teachers and professors. And at the same time, I'm not knocking nurses and doctors. But the system, which is way bigger than any individual person or persons, I am knocking them. And the American medical system is a trashy system just because of everything I laid out in episode 2338. And you should listen to that episode to get my full argument. But when my son was born, we ended up in the hospital. We had a home birth. We ended up in the hospital because he had a little bit of meconium, and meconium is just poop that comes out of the baby before it's supposed to come out. We just wanted to make sure he hadn't ingested any into his lungs. He had not ingested any into his lungs, which is great news. But then the doctor there, she seemed relatively young. She was basically trying to flex her muscle and tell me what she was going to do to my child, even though the main thing that we were there to check on had already been cleared. And she got very indignant when she realized that I was not going to comply with what she wanted, and I ended up having to cuss that bitch out in the middle of the hospital. And the whole point is not her personally. It's the system that she was trained in. All right, she was trained to do that and trained to be like that. And any other doctor probably would have responded the same way to me. I mean, I say respond, reacted the same way to me had I pushed back on any other doctor. Had it been a man, had it been a woman, had they been black, white, no matter where they were from, old, young, they are trained that way because they're trained to expect compliance. And when you don't comply, they try to use fear and basically try to bully you into doing what they want you to do. And they threaten you with, well, if you don't let me do this, and the doctor actually said this to me, I fear for your son's life. She actually said those words out of her mouth, even though the very thing that we were checking for had already been cleared as having no issue. And she was talking like, she had like a list of like 11 things she wanted to check for because she was fearing for the life of my son. And this is, again, it is a knock on this doctor personally. I don't even remember the woman's name. If I did, I would say her name. But I never even bothered to learn her name. But if I did know her name, I would say it. It's not even that much that was her. It was the system that she was trained in. And this is the American medical system. And the whole system, I'm just using that as an example, but the school system works the exact same way. The educational system in America these days, I know some very smart people. I mean, very smart, very intelligent, very accomplished individuals who I vouch for their intelligence, who I hear and see and read saying things that don't quite make sense, that say that they raise a red flag to me like, this person is too intelligent to be saying something so stupid. Something that just makes so little sense. How is this intelligent person that I know is intelligent saying this thing that doesn't make sense? And the reason is they work in the system. And when you work in the system, the only way you can stay in the system is by doing what the system tells you to do, which means even if you got to say something or do something stupid, you got to roll with it. Because that's the game that you're in. That's the system that you're in. It's blood in, blood out. All right, that's the way it works. Anyway, let's move on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is America conspires to make you average. Here's how you fight back against it. Number 3, the system of America wants to mass produce compliant, rule following, and compromising people who can be controlled by fear and intimidation. This is what the system does. I'm not saying America is this. I'm saying the system is this. America is still the most free land in the world. All right, I'm happy to be a citizen of America. It is the land of the free, home of the brave. I have more freedom here in America than I would have in any other country. And there are some countries where if I was to record something like this and put it out, where I'm basically shitting on the system of the government, they would send authorities to my house and come take me away. In America, you can get away with this. For the most part, the American experiment has been successful. I already did a whole episode on this already. That was episode 1938, Why America is Great Now. So I know there was a slogan, a campaign slogan that said, Make America Great Again. I believe America is great now. And I laid out my reasons why in episode 1938. All the rewards in America go to people who buck the system. This is the thing you should notice. The rewards don't go to the people who follow the system. The rewards go to people who go against the system. The thing is, there are so few of them in the big picture that it doesn't hurt when they become known figures. People who buck the system and become known for it, it doesn't hurt the system overall because the numbers are so small. So for example, me telling you what I'm telling you here today is not really that dangerous to the system, because this audience, the people who listen to this, even if it's the most listened to episode ever in the history of my show, will still be less than 1% of the population just in America alone. The American population is 331 million people. So in the last 12 months, this show has done 2.38 million listeners. The last time I checked, it was 2.4. But just do the math on that. That's less than 1%. All right, that's less than 1% of the population just in the United States alone. So I'm not even that much of a threat. Even if every single person who listens to this show believed everything that I said and started living it out, I'm still not that much of a threat. Now, if I double, triple, 10x that audience, then maybe I might get on somebody's radar. But right now, I'm not. The whole point is, you got to pay attention to what the system wants you to do and versus the conflict that it has maybe with what you want to do. And understand that If you follow what everybody else does, you get what everybody else gets. At some point in life, you have to decide where you're going to go left while everybody else is going right. And if you simply comply and follow the system, you'll be left alone, but you're going to be just like everybody else. And if you're okay with that, so am I. But I would guess if you're listening to a show called Work on Your Game, that that's probably not your aim on some level. With that said, let's recap today's class, which is America conspires to make you average. Here is how to fight it. Number one, TikTok, Chinese version, limits teens to 40 minutes per day, bans use from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The country of China has a minor protection law. Imagine that happened in the United States. People would protest in the streets and fight against it. Their law sets up functions such as time management, content restriction, and consumption limits for minors for all social media platforms, and they all have to comply. And the country banned online gamers from under the age of 18 from playing games on weekdays and limited their playing to just 3 hours most weekends. Now imagine the American government doing something like that, or even trying to. The parents will be mad. There will be parents who will be angry at the government for even trying to do this. And there are people who will go out and protest and say the kids should have a right to make whatever decision they want to make, even if it is a life-altering decision, even at the age of 12. The same kid who wants to eat pancakes for dinner and ice cream for lunch. This is the person who should be able to make adult level decisions that alter their lives long term. There are people who will fight for the right for kids to be able to do this, just because I'm telling you, the next step is that LGBTQ. They're about to add that P, and you're gonna see your favorite rappers and ball players next on the agenda. Point number two, schools, hospitals, jails, and courthouses are all designed the exact same way. Why? Because they are all about compliance and controlling and using fear of what they can take away from you or what you will lose if you do not follow what they want you to do. Jails and courts, they threaten your freedom. Hospitals threaten your health. School threatens your mind. And there are a lot of smart individuals working in these places. And this is not a knock against them personally. When you see a smart person doing something that doesn't quite make sense, 3-word phrase, keep this in mind: follow the money. And number three, the system of America wants to mass produce compliant, rule following, and compromising people who can be controlled by fear and intimidation. And for the most part, they are successful at doing this. But in general, I say the American experiment has been successful. As I said, I got an episode telling you why America is great now. So even though it is not perfect, there's a difference between perfect and great. Even though it's not perfect, America continues to make strides moving forward, and it gets rid of the nonsense over time. Because nonsense exposed enough eventually is going to expose itself to the point that it can't defend itself anymore, and it'll get knocked down. And some of the nonsense going on right now is not going to continue to last simply because it can't. But some of it's going on right now, and I've already told you why. So, for example, me telling you what I'm telling you here today, I'm affecting less than 1% of the population in America, so I'm not a threat to the system that I'm railing against here today. But if my audience gets bigger, all right, maybe, who knows? They might find out about me. I might get on somebody's radar. But all that said, text me to get my daily motivation straight to your phone, free of charge every day. My number is 305-384-6894. Second, get your ticket to Work on Your Game Live. We won't be talking about this so much, but we will be talking about the mindset, strategies, the systems, and the execution that you need to take your game and your business and your career to its next level. I guarantee you that you won't leave the room until you have a clear path and a system and a strategy to follow moving forward. Get your ticket by going to workonyourgame.live. And my coaching program inside of my university, all you have to do is go to workonyourgame.net/apply. Pick a time on the calendar, fill out the quick application. We'll get on a call and find out where you're at, where you want to go, what your biggest challenges are. I'll tell you how I can help you, what the program looks like, how to get started. That's all at workonyourgame.net/apply. Work on your game. Dre all day.